Hi, my name is Elliot Overmeer. I'm a visual artist who lives and works in Boston, Massachusetts. Today is October 8th, 2025. I always liked to draw when I was a kid. I grew up in Northern California, and I went to a school that was really encouraging of the arts. My mom taught me how to sew, and I always liked crafting and making little figures and things out of wood and clay. It was always more of a hobby. Like a lot of people, I knew I'd have to go and get a real job someday, and I didn't feel as though I could support myself as an artist. I originally went to college to study fashion design, since I felt like I could have an actual career in that field, and I knew I was good at sewing. But after a year, I was feeling stifled creatively and not feeling very excited about working in the fashion industry, and then the pandemic hit, and I took some time off school just to go back home and work and think about some things. I came back the next year and I switched my studies to art, and for the first time in my life, I began to take art really seriously and think it was something I could maybe do as a career. There are many artists who are influential to me. I would say that Via Selmans is one of the most important ones for me, Luke Choymans as well. I really love the objects and the scenes that they're drawn to. I find they're often really unexpected and always interesting. Giorgio Morandi is another artist I really love. I think his work is really beautiful. His objects felt so much like characters to me, and I think that he painted very smart in kind of a deceptive way. The paintings seem very simple, but when you don't change the formula a lot, tiny changes in color and composition and things like that almost feel larger. I guess they stand out a little more in comparison. It's a very economical way to paint, and I think he got a lot out of a little, if that makes sense. I draw inspiration from a lot of other things too. Books are really important for me. There's a book called The Mezzanine that I want all of my work to be like. Recently I've been focusing on drawing a little bit more. For a long time I kind of viewed drawing as a preliminary step for a painting, and I didn't think I could make a drawing good enough to call a completed work. But I've been trying to really embrace it as a medium, and I've been really enjoying it and figuring out what a finished drawing means to me. I would say the biggest challenge of being an artist is just allowing yourself to take time away from art. I don't want to speak for other artists too much here, but I think all artists go through cycles of inspiration where maybe one week you have 5 great ideas every day and you're drawing and painting and doing everything in the studio. And then you might have a month and a half where nothing feels good and you feel like you're not an artist at all and you just have to ride that feeling out. That can be really hard to get through, and it's also difficult sometimes just to find the time to make things when you do have those periods of inspiration. Like a lot of artists, I have a full-time job to support my art, and it's not easy to work around that schedule in the periods where you don't have any good ideas and still feel like you're making meaningful work sometimes. If I could go back in time and speak to my younger self, I think I would just tell myself to make work and not worry about themes or how good it is or what other people will think about it. You don't have to show it to anybody, just make work and make a lot of it. I don't think I practiced nearly enough because I would get so caught up in trying to decide what to paint that I wouldn't actually get around to painting or making work of any kind. I would make a little bit, but I certainly didn't have enough focus on just working through ideas and techniques and figuring out your own voice. I think if you make enough work, the themes will come out on their own, and you can sort of let all that stuff work itself out and just focus on making things. That's something that I still have to remind myself of every now and then. My practice mostly consists of drawing and painting. I don't use any materials or mediums that are too unexpected generally. I do like to experiment a little bit within those two disciplines. I've been starting to work with silver point drawing a bit, which is a very old drawing technique. I think I'm very drawn to process in my artistic practice, and all the techniques I've tried before that have a more involved process have been really gratifying. I've also worked with distemper a bit, and that has a similar kind of process to it that I enjoyed a lot as well. it also feels good to keep some of those traditional techniques alive. I generally listen to something when I'm in the studio. I work in silence a good amount of the time, but usually I'll listen to music or a podcast in the background. I'm very selective about the music that I play in the studio. If I listen to music, it's never anything with lyrics or anything too busy. I just find that that's always too much. It's usually jazz or something classical. I think I used to be worried that listening to someone else's creative vision would have an accidental impact on my own that wasn't coming from myself, but I don't think that's ever actually really happened to me. I don't usually like hearing or seeing other people's reactions to my art. It can be really hard to separate yourself from the art sometimes, so people's reactions can feel very personal, and I always worry that it's inauthentic if I'm right there and they're giving their reaction to me. There was one time, though, that somebody who wasn't really into art that much told me that a series of paintings I did reminded them of a children's book, and I actually really liked that one. I think the first time I was exposed to art, like a lot of people, was from kids' books like Goodnight Moon, and so in a funny way it really meant a lot to me to hear that. I like how the objects in Goodnight Moon are treated as characters too. That's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. I hope when people interact with my art, that they come away from it looking at the things around them differently, and maybe try to see themselves in those things. I would hope that if someone had seen a piece of mine in a gallery or somewhere, that maybe on their way home they might notice a doorway or something in the street that they normally wouldn't see, and I would hope that they would stop to look at it for a minute. I don't know if I want people to take away a specific message or anything, and I know different people will have different takeaways, even if I do put a more intentional and direct message into a piece. But I just hope that on some level, people would recognize some kind of character or humanity in the objects around them. And maybe they think about their salt shaker a little more the next time they use it or something like that. And maybe that's a source for reflection, and maybe it's just a new relationship that wasn't really there before. But I guess that's what I'd hope people take away from my art. You can find more of my work on my Instagram or on my website, elliotovermeer.com. And you can follow me on Substack at Elliot Overmeer, where I run a publication called Prairie Simulator. Thank you for watching.